General Hospital spoilers tease that finally, the truth can no longer be hidden. The real identity of Professor Henry Hank Dalton has been officially confirmed, and it's more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Dalton is the biological brother of Shiloh Archer, the man who once terrorized Port Charles under the guise of the Dawn of Day cult. For a long time, Dalton has been secretly hiding his true origins, carefully crafting the image of a dignified, humble professor. From the shadows, he has been quietly rebuilding and scheming to expand upon the unfinished legacy that Shiloh left behind. The story behind the name Hank is no longer a suspicious coincidence. It's now a haunting symbol, a chilling reminder that the ghosts of the past are clawing their way back. Dalton deliberately kept his old nickname as a blood tie to Shiloh and as a covert message to those who once knew the manipulative power of Dawn of Day. The nightmare never truly ended. During his time embedded in Port Charles, Dalton hasn't merely been observing. He has been sowing new seeds for his own cult. With sweet charisma and the perfect disguise of a respected intellectual, he has slowly built trust, recruited the vulnerable, and drawn in lost souls, the very tactics that made Shiloh terrifyingly successful in the past. But Dalton's ambitions go even further. He doesn't just want to recreate Dawn of Day. He wants to grow it into a more sophisticated, more powerful, and more insidious cult, one that spreads like a silent but deadly virus. The exposure of Dalton's true identity marks the beginning of a new dark era for Port Charles. No longer needing to hide or act, Dalton can now operate openly, exploiting Shiloh's legacy and tapping into the town's fear, insecurity, and broken trust. He knows Port Charles's weaknesses all too well, and like a patient predator, he's been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Every move Dalton makes is calculated, every relationship he builds serves a singular purpose: to resurrect Dawn of Day, bigger, more dangerous, and harder to destroy than ever before. Dalton's truth doesn't just shake those who have traumatic histories with the cult, it presents a massive threat to the entire Port Charles community. Who will have the courage and clarity to expose him? Who can stop this slowly unfolding madness? And more importantly, does Port Charles have the strength to face someone who not only inherited Shiloh's cunning, ruthlessness, and thirst for control, but has refined and amplified it to terrifying new levels? As the truth comes to light, a new wave of fear begins to spread across the city. The name Hank, once thought to be buried forever with the bloody past of Dawn of Day, now echoes again as a painful reminder that old wounds never truly heal. For Dalton, this isn't just about carrying on his brother's legacy. It's a declaration of war against Port Charles, a burning desire to prove he can achieve more, go further, and delve deeper than Shiloh ever dreamed. And with every move Dalton makes, the city inches closer to the brink of a new nightmare, one that this time, no one may be able to wake from. Ultimately, as these dark truths unfold, it's clear, Dalton is not just Shiloh Archer's younger brother, he is the perfect heir to Shiloh's most twisted ambitions. He isn't merely rebuilding Dawn of Day in secret, he is now actively targeting vulnerable young women, just as Shiloh once deceived and manipulated Willow Tate. His first targets, Jocelyn Jax and Emma Scorpio Drake, are already unknowingly falling into the trap he's meticulously laid. Dalton doesn't rush. He is patient, quiet, and cunning, weaving a perfect snare with sweet words, fake kindness, and the impeccable facade of a model teacher no one suspects. Step by step, he draws Jocelyn and Emma closer, using feigned concern and seemingly innocent questions to slip into their inner worlds. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's learned from Shiloh that even the smallest emotional cracks can be exploited and expanded into gateways for total manipulation. Grief, loneliness, self-doubt, all of it becomes fertile ground for the seeds of darkness Dalton is planting. He doesn't hurry. He slithers like a snake through emotional defenses, waiting for the right moment to strike. And that patience is what makes Dalton far more dangerous than Shiloh ever was. Where Shiloh was swept up in arrogance and the desire for quick conquest, Dalton knows how to wait, how to sow devotion, how to mold followers who will willingly surrender their souls. Jocelyn and Emma, Two young women full of heart but with emotional voids yet to be healed, are becoming perfect targets for his scheme. And if no one notices in time, if no one stops him, their fates could be even more tragic than Willow's once was. The name, Hank, once used by Shiloh at the beginning of his descent into darkness, now resurfaces as a chilling symbol of rebirth. Dalton isn't just continuing old tricks, he's upgrading them. Transforming Dawn of Day into a new cult, subtler, broader, and harder to detect. And so, the madness grows across Port Charles, not with loud gatherings or empty slogans, but through every glance. Every soft-spoken word, every fake display of care that Dalton offers his future victims. What makes this even more horrifying is that not only the naive are susceptible. Even those who once fought against Dawn of Day, who witnessed Shiloh's worst crimes, now struggle to see through Dalton's polished disguise. His skillful concealment makes everyone believe he's just an odd but harmless professor. And that, trust, is Dalton's deadliest weapon. Port Charles is once again being pushed to the edge. Old wounds thought to have healed are being torn open. Long smoldering fears are flaring back to life. And those who remember the horrors of Dawn of Day know all too well, if no one acts now, the consequences won't just be a few lost victims, it'll be an entire new generation swallowed by darkness. Dalton doesn't just want to carry on his brother's work. He wants to surpass Shiloh, to create a world where fragile young people like Jocelyn and Emma willingly give themselves to him, no coercion needed. He wants to raise a generation of utterly loyal followers, ready to go anywhere, do anything, for the light, he promises, a false light built on empty words, leading them into the deepest, inescapable darkness. With each passing day, this madness spreads further, taking deeper root in the hearts of Dalton's chosen targets. And while the city remains lulled by a false sense of peace, a new nightmare quietly waits, ready to devour everything. Because this time, the predator isn't a reckless, predictable Shiloh, it's a cold, patient, and far more dangerous Dalton. And even the smartest among them may not realize they've become prey, until it's too late. As Dalton's dark plans quietly unfold, a new revelation unexpectedly emerges, plunging everything into a storm of unpredictable chaos. In his efforts to expand control and rebuild Dawn of Day, Dalton begins to notice a strange connection between himself and Drew Kane, a vague but weighty bond, like a dangerous undercurrent threatening to erupt at any moment. Small details, unconscious actions, subtle gestures, and Drew's expressions all seem to trigger memories in Dalton, echoes of a past intertwined with Shiloh Archer. The more he observes and interacts, the more Dalton feels an inexplicable pull, as if something about Drew goes beyond mere memories or lingering guilt. It feels as though Drew carries within him a piece of Shiloh's soul. This newfound perception sparks a major strategic shift in Dalton, a dramatic turning point in his covert scheme. No longer content with simply luring in young women like Jocelyn and Emma, Dalton begins to redirect his attention in a far more dangerous direction, infiltrating Drew's inner world, manipulating and exploiting him for future plans. If Drew does indeed have some deep-seated link to Shiloh, conscious or not, he could become Dalton's trump card, the perfect tool to construct a cultic empire even Shiloh never managed to achieve. The early interactions between Drew and Dalton are tense, marked by subtle wariness. Every word, every handshake, every glance hides layers of meaning beneath the surface of polite civility. Drew, guided by an unclear intuition, senses something is off about Dalton, but can't yet pinpoint the source of that unease. Meanwhile, Dalton, with the patience of a seasoned hunter, carefully orchestrates harmless encounters to test Drew's reactions, probing the depth of their mysterious bond. With each new exchange, Dalton grows increasingly unsettled yet fascinated. There are moments when Drew unknowingly utters words that were once Dawn of Day slogans, without realizing it. Sometimes, his gaze darkens, turning cold in a way that eerily recalls Shiloh at his most dangerous. These subtle signs strengthen Dalton's conviction, not only is Dawn of Day being reborn through him, but the very spirit, ideology, and twisted essence of Shiloh is quietly reawakening inside Drew Kane. That realization sends everything spiraling further out of control. Dalton is no longer a lone madman chasing the past, he is becoming the eye of a new storm, a madness that Drew is being pulled into, willingly or not. While Port Charles remains complacent. Believing dawn of day has been buried for good, the truth is stealthily advancing. Madness never dies, it only waits for the right moment to erupt with greater, more devastating power. Dalton's new strategic focus, targeting Drew rather than just vulnerable youths, signals a more terrifying chapter in the story. If Drew is truly drawn in, and Dalton succeeds in awakening the remnants of Shiloh within him, this won't just be the return of a dangerous cult, it will be the perfect reincarnation of a demon who once inflicted immense pain upon Port Charles. And this time, the city may face a new Shiloh, more dangerous, more cunning, and potentially unaware of the destructive force he now embodies. As Drew and Dalton's interactions intensify, as every glance and unconscious gesture begins to align in eerily synchronized ways, a haunting question starts forming in the minds of those still clear-headed enough to recognize the danger. Will anyone be able to stop this rising nightmare, when even former victims are now feeding its resurgence? When the layers of deceit start peeling away, a darker, more deranged chapter begins silently in Port Charles. Dalton is no longer merely executing sinister old plans, he is adapting, steering the narrative into a more twisted, more dangerous, and far less controllable direction. One particularly terrifying development is already taking root and growing fast. Both Dalton and Drew, despite their vastly different origins, are now being drawn into a plot aimed squarely at Willow Corinthos and Sasha Gilmore. These two women, both direct or indirect victims of Dawn of Day in the past, are once again becoming central targets in this chilling resurrection. Dalton, with his boundless ambition, realizes that manipulating or breaking Willow and Sasha won't just solidify his power, it's also the fastest way to reignite the legacy of Dawn of Day. Meanwhile, Drew, still struggling with fragmented memories and haunting glimpses of Shiloh, is sinking deeper into Dalton's web. Both men, through different paths, are converging on Willow and Sasha, one still scarred by past trauma, the other more vulnerable than anyone realizes. Targeting Willow isn't just psychological warfare, it's a direct blow to the emotional heart of Port Charles. Willow, who once survived Shiloh's horrific abuse, is now happier than ever, surrounded by love and family. Destroying her now wouldn't just harm an individual, it would trigger an emotional earthquake capable of shaking the very foundations the city has built in the aftermath of so much loss. And Sasha, with her history of psychological wounds and deep inner turmoil, is an even easier target for someone who knows how to exploit such fragility. Dalton, ever patient and cunning, is carefully planting seeds of doubt and mental traps around them. He knows that controlling Willow and Sasha requires more than threats or force, it demands their voluntary surrender. Their willing trust in a false world he's constructing. A world filled with promises of salvation and peace, but in truth, forged from invisible chains that will bind their souls, pulling them into a reborn cult more dangerous than ever. Even more terrifying is Drew's role. Amid his mental chaos, he seems to be becoming Dalton's unwitting ally. Their encounters, seemingly coincidental but actually orchestrated, are slowly forging a dark connection between Drew and Shiloh's twisted legacy. Though still conscious of right and wrong, Drew cannot deny that in his weaker moments, he yearns for comfort and meaning in the chaos, just like the many souls Dawn of Day once deceived. And so, in the shadows, a new alliance is forming, unofficial, undefined, but more dangerous than any oath. Dalton and Drew, two men scarred by different pasts, are, knowingly or not, pushing Willow and Sasha toward the edge. The small cracks grow wider. Toxic whispers creep into their dreams. Doubts begin to invade their hearts. Day by day, the faint light that Willow and Sasha cling to for survival is dimming under the creeping darkness. The legacy of Dawn of Day, once thought destroyed, is exploding back into existence at terrifying speed, stronger, faster, and more dangerous than Port Charles has ever seen. No longer through loud ceremonies or empty speeches, now, the control seeps silently into minds, into their most hidden fears, making submission feel as natural as breathing. And worst of all, most people don't even realize that the nightmare has returned, quietly infecting everything from within. Dalton, with cold-blooded cruelty and unrelenting ambition, has planted the seeds of a new dawn of day in the most fertile ground possible. Willow, Sasha, even Drew, one by one, are becoming links in this dark chain. And when those links tighten, when the city finally awakens to the fact that it's been surrounded, it may be too late to stop the tidal wave of madness sweeping through, destroying everything once built on trust and love. As darkness quietly spreads across Port Charles, a horrifying truth has slowly come to light. Dalton, beneath the facade of a learned professor and composed exterior, is gradually revealing his true nature, a new kind of villain, a modern monster more sophisticated than anything the city has ever known. Gone are the days of subtle manipulation and silent attempts to rebuild dawn of day. Dalton has now shed the last remnants of pretense and charged headlong down a bloody, irreversible path. The new terror Dalton brings is far more than psychological games. It's a wave of true mental and emotional terrorism, marked by mysterious deaths, strange disappearances, and increasingly sophisticated, dangerous forms of control. Unlike Shiloh, who sought to dominate his victims' minds, Dalton wants total command over their lives, their fates. He intends to turn each person into a puppet in his hands, and for those who dare resist, the price is their life. Dalton's new ideas are erupting like an uncontrollable storm. No longer content with merely recruiting new followers, he begins planning purges, eliminating anyone who dares doubt or defy him. The first death signals the start of a new disaster. A minor character, once a supporter of Willow, suddenly dies in a strange car accident, a death that, upon closer inspection, shows chilling signs of being orchestrated. Then more deaths follow, one by one, people vanish or fall in suspiciously coincidental ways, as though their fates had been pre-written by a hidden hand. No longer hiding his cruelty, Dalton begins purging the path for the cult he's quietly rebuilding. Control is no longer just about hollow, spiritual guidance sessions, it has evolved into a covert power network, where every action and personal decision is monitored, and every non-conforming thought could be punished. Those who try to sound the alarm disappear one by one, leaving behind a growing fear spreading like an invisible disease across the city. Port Charles, already too familiar with tragedy, now faces a real catastrophe. No one knows who will be next. No one dares believe they're safe. From ordinary citizens to key figures in the city, everyone becomes a potential target under Dalton's manipulation. And the most terrifying part? Not everyone realizes the nightmare has already begun, because Dalton is too clever, too cold and hiding the truth behind a perfectly moral mask. The surge of mysterious deaths, the meticulous control over every corner of life in Port Charles, is painting a suffocating, grim picture, a society where fear is the only law. And the one who controls minds and lives becomes the true ruler. Dalton is no longer just a name. He is becoming a symbol of death, a living curse hanging over everyone's heads. With every death, with every will broken, the legacy of Dawn of Day is not just resurrected, it's elevated to a new level, the level of total destruction. That's why the coming days in Port Charles will no longer be a fight between ordinary people and a manipulative cult, as before. It will be a fight for survival, between the last flickers of light and the roaring storm of darkness rising from the city's very core. Dalton, the new face of evil, has begun his game. And this time, he no longer cares about sparing anyone who could stand in his way. Blood will be spilled, hearts will be shattered, and the last remaining dreams will break, unless someone finds the courage to stand up and confront him, the monster that Port Charles unknowingly allowed to grow in its own heart.